Right, lean in because what I'm about to tell you will either sting or save you, depending on how honest you're willing to be with yourself. Status, that invisible currency that decides how people treat you before you even open your mouth. You know what I mean. Walk into a room and instantly you can feel it. Who people look at first, who they want to stand next to, who they subconsciously defer to, even without realizing it, and who they completely overlook. Status isn't always money. It isn't always looks. It isn't even always power. It's an energy, a presence, a silent agreement that says this person matters here. And the wild part is, you've been playing this game your whole life without even realizing it. In school and relationships, at work, in your family, every single dynamic is shaped by invisible rules of status. And most people never learn the rules. They just feel frustrated. They wonder why nobody listens to them, why their ideas get ignored until someone else repeats them louder, why they feel invisible even when they're trying so hard to belong. It's not because you're not enough. It's because you're not playing by the rules that actually decide where you stand. So let me rip the curtain open for you, because once you see this, you can't unsee it. First rule, attention is status. Who gets it? Who holds it? Who people lean toward when they speak? But here's the catch. Begging for attention drops your status instantly. Ever seen someone tell a joke that didn't land and they force a laugh track by laughing at themselves? That's status suicide. The ones with real weight can sit in silence, and the silence becomes heavy. They don't chase the moment chases them. Think about Barack Obama. He'd pause mid-sentence, and people would lean forward like their lives depended on the next word. That pause wasn't weakness, it was dominance. Second rule, self-respect is contagious. People decide how to treat you by watching how you treat yourself. If you constantly downplay your wins, apologize for existing, or let others cross your boundaries without consequence, you're teaching everyone in the room that your respect is optional. And once you set that standard, it's almost impossible to climb back up. Look at someone like Rihanna. She doesn't need to scream for respect. Her entire posture says it. I know my worth, whether you see it or not. That's why people orbit around her. Status isn't demanded, it's demonstrated. Third rule, scarcity makes value. Humans are wired to want what they can't easily have. If you're always available, always explaining yourself, always rushing to fill silence, you become background noise. But the person who chooses their words carefully, who isn't afraid to say, I'll think about it, instead of instantly agreeing, creates gravity. Think about Einstein. Not the wild-haired genius memes, but the man himself. He wasn't chasing every debate. He sat back, thought, and then when he spoke, the world listened. Scarcity breeds respect. Fourth rule, status is transferred. Who you're associated with changes how people see you. That's why kings had courts, why celebrities roll in entourages, why history's most influential thinkers gathered in circles like the Bloomsbury Group. Status spreads. You hang around 5 clowns, you look like the circus. You hang around 5 killers, metaphorically, relax. You start carrying that edge. You don't even need to say much. The room already decided what you are based on your associations. Fifth rule, control your reactions. This is psychological warfare 101. If someone insults you and you explode, you just told the room that person has power over you. But if you stay composed, smirk, or just let it slide with a look, you show the opposite. Think Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who literally wrote a journal on not letting people's actions dictate your inner world. You can't control the room if you can't control yourself. Now here's where it gets deep. Status isn't just external, it's internal. You can fake confidence for a while, but if deep down you see yourself as less, the cracks show. People pick up on micro-expressions, tone shifts, body language, even if they can't explain it. That's why some people with zero money, average looks, and no obvious power still walk into a room and shift the entire atmosphere. They've convinced themselves first. Psychology calls it self-concept. Your brain acts like a mirror, reflecting how you see yourself back onto others. And trust me, people read it. You ever notice how some people argue over nothing just to prove they're right? That's a low-status move. Because real status doesn't need to be proven in every interaction. It's not about winning every battle. It's about making everyone know you could if you wanted to. That's why Muhammad Ali could brag and taunt. Because deep down he knew, and so did the world. High status doesn't need validation. It creates it. Here's another brutal truth. Over-explaining lowers your status. If you feel the need to justify every action, defend every decision, or convince people why you're worthy, you're already bleeding power. The strongest people explain the least. They let actions, results, and presence talk. That's why someone like Steve Jobs could walk in with a turtleneck and say, "This is revolutionary." And suddenly the world believed it. His certainty replaced the need for explanation. But let me warn you, status isn't about arrogance. It's not about belittling others or dominating the weak. That's fake power. Real status uplifts. When someone with real status notices the quietest person in the room, it raises both of them. When someone with fake status tries to push others down, the whole room feels the insecurity behind it. You can always tell the difference. Now, you might be asking, how do I build this in myself? Here's the uncomfortable part. It starts with the daily boring, unglamorous work of respecting yourself when nobody's watching. Keeping the promises you make to yourself. Saying what you mean and meaning what you say. Taking care of your health, your word, your boundaries, because status isn't given to you in the room. The room just reveals the status you already built in private. Let me give you a piece of psychology that changed my life. Mirror neurons. These tiny circuits in your brain are basically the Wi-Fi of human connection. Humans literally mirror the emotional state of the people they're with. It's why you yawn when someone else yawns, why you feel uneasy around someone who's anxious, why laughter spreads through a group even if the joke wasn't that funny. Your brain is wired to sync, which means when you walk into a room, you're not just showing up as you. You're programming the entire emotional climate without saying a word. If you're calm, grounded, and steady, others start to feel that in their own nervous system. But if you're frantic, needy, or desperate, they'll absorb that too. And suddenly you've lowered the room just by being in it. So the fastest way to raise your status is not to control the room, not to dominate with volume, not to prove yourself with endless words. It's to control yourself so deeply that the room naturally calibrates to you. That's why real leaders don't need to scream. That's why Martin Luther King Jr. could stand in front of hundreds of thousands and speak with conviction that felt calm yet unstoppable. His nervous system was an anchor, and everyone else's mirrored it. Leadership is contagious, and mirror neurons are the mechanism. That's why leaders are born, not because of title, but because of state. And here's the hidden killer nobody talks about: envy. Envy is like acid, it burns both ways. If your wins are used to compete with others instead of inspire, you'll always feel alone at the top. Because here's the paradox: the higher your status climbs, the lonelier it can get if it's built on comparison. You'll start protecting it, defending it, fearing that someone else's shine will dim yours. That's not real status. That's insecurity dressed up in designer clothes. The highest form of status isn't just being respected, it's being respected and loved. When people admire you but also feel safe around you, that's when you're untouchable. Think about Nelson Mandela. His status came not just from surviving prison or becoming president, but from forgiveness, from choosing unity instead of revenge. Power without love is tyranny. But power with love, that's immortality. That's why Mandela's name echoes across time. You might think status is something you need to get, that it's hiding out there in some job title, some car, some follower count. But really, it's something you stop giving away. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you give it away. Every time you laugh at a joke that cuts you just to fit in, you give it away. Every time you shrink so others feel tall, you give it away. You don't even notice it half the time because it feels like survival. But status isn't built by chasing, it's built by holding. By saying, this is who I am, this is where I stand, and I don't trade it for cheap approval. So next time you walk into a room, ask yourself this: what energy am I bringing that no one can take from me? Because status isn't about them, it's about you. It's not about being the loudest, it's about being the most grounded. It's not about being noticed, it's about being unforgettable. You know how some people leave a room and you forget their name 10 minutes later, but others leave and you're still thinking about them years after? That's the difference. And the funny thing is, once you stop chasing status, that's when you actually start getting it. Because the one thing people can't resist is someone who doesn't need their validation to feel whole. Think about this. History remembers the people who moved different, the ones who broke the script, the ones who carried themselves like they already knew who they were before the world told them. Not the ones who blended in, not the ones who begged for attention, but the ones who lived by rules most people ignored. The Stoics, the revolutionaries, the visionaries. They didn't ask permission to be great. They just stopped negotiating their value. And you don't need to be famous to do that. You just need to stop living like your worth is negotiable. I'll leave you with this. Every room you enter is a mirror. It reflects back exactly who you believe you are. If you don't like what you see, don't waste your life changing rooms. Change the belief. Because when you believe different, you walk different, you talk different, you command different. And once you get this, really get it, you'll never walk into any space the same again. And maybe one day, someone will be studying you, quoting you, asking how did they carry so much weight without ever raising their voice? How did they manage to walk into a room and change the atmosphere just by being there? That's the secret. That's status.